1. What would our b value be? 2. Remember, this is b. Okay. Now, because there's a b value, remember there's supposed to be a parenthesis around x minus h, and there's not one there. So that must have meant the 2 got distributed into the parenthesis. So I need to take the 2 out of the parenthesis. So how would I take 2 out of 2x minus 4? What would that look like? So I would now have the absolute value of 2 parenthesis x minus 2, right? I've got to factor that 2 out plus 1, all right? And now that I've done that, I can actually see h correctly. So what is my h value? 2, right? Because it says x minus 2 in the parentheses. We know it's going to be the opposite sign, so 2. All right, and what is my k value? 1. Okay, so again, reminder, out here is where we find a. This is our b value. This is h. And out here is k, right? Okay. All right, now I am going to use a and b to determine my slope, right? Remember, I showed you guys what that is the a value. What was our a value? 1 over the absolute value of 1 over b. And what was b? 2. Okay. So I need to take the absolute value first, right? So I can get rid of those absolute value bars. The absolute value of 1/2 is just 1/2, right? So this is really 1 over 1/2. Now when I have a fraction within a fraction, or a fraction divided by a fraction, what's our rule? How do I solve that if I don't have a calculator? What am I really doing when I divide a fraction by a fraction? Yes. Right, we're just multiplying by the reciprocal. So what we do is keep, change, flip, right? So I keep the first part, which for us in the numerator, all we have is a 1, right? So I'm going to keep the 1. I change from division to multiplication, right? And then the last thing to do is to flip the denominator over. So I would really flip it over and it would just become 2 over 1, which is really just 2. And 1 times 2 is 2. So our slope this time will be 2. All right. So knowing my h and k, where would we say our vertex is? 2, 1. Okay, and then remember, I told you guys yesterday, one convenient thing about knowing that our function is symmetrical is that if we can find a couple points like f of 2 and f of negative 2, we can plot them and know there will be that mirror image on the other side, right? So we don't have to plot so many points. So let's find f of 2 and f of negative 2. So I'm going to have the absolute value of 2 times 2 minus 4, close that absolute value, plus 1, right? So we work inside the absolute value first. What should I do first in there? Multiply the 2's. So 2 times 2 would give us 4, right? And then I can subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. And the absolute value of 0 is just 0. So really all I'm left with is the plus 1 on the end. So this is all equivalent to just 1, right? Therefore, we have the coordinate point 2, 1 somewhere on our graph, okay? All right, now let's plug in the negative 2. So I'd have the absolute value of 2 times negative 2 minus 4 plus 1. So just like last time, you guys said we multiply first. 2 times negative 2 would give me Negative 4. And negative 4 minus 4 would be, right. And what's the absolute value of negative 8? Positive 8. So inside that absolute value, we ended up with just an 8 when we took it out, plus 1, which is 9. So we also will have the point negative 2, 9 somewhere on our graph. Okay, so we should have everything we need.
Did we get the 2 from the 2, not from the vertex?
What?
Where did we get the 2 from?
Because I said that's what we were supposed to plug in right here, and then they said plug in a negative 2 right here. Okay, so let's go and graph what we know. So we always graph what first? The what? The vertex. Good. Okay. So we've got a point at positive 2, positive 1. Okay. And I can use then my slope, right, to go ahead and plot all the points. Or I could use the 2 points that we already found, which were the points 2, 1, which we already plotted, right? And the point negative 2, positive 9. Okay, and then remember yesterday we talked about that axis of symmetry, right? Where would the axis of symmetry be for this graph? Where is it? X equals 2. So that'd be this line right here. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 2. So that means that anything on the left should have a matching value on the right? So it looks like at 9, 1, 2, 3, 4 places away from that line, I had a point. So 1, 2, 3, 4 places in this direction, I should have the exact same point, right? So here's my absolute value. And if you check, we do in fact have a slope of 2 to get us there, right? We're going up 2 and over 1, just like we said our slope was, right? So if you actually wanted to check, you could just use your slope. All right. Okay, let's do one more. So for number 6, on number 6, what is our A value? Negative 2. Good. And what's our B value? 2. Okay, now I have to be careful. What am I going to need to do before I can figure out what my H is? Right, I need to factor out that 2, right? So this is going to be equivalent to negative 2 times the absolute value of 2 parentheses x, right, 1.5, yeah. Or 3 over 2, whichever way you want to think of that. Close that absolute value. We got that minus 1 on the end, right? All right, so what is our value for H then? Negative 1.5. Or negative 3/2, again, whichever way you thought about it. And what's our K? Negative 1. Nice. Okay. So now we need to find our slope. Remember, slope is A. What was our A? Negative 2 over the absolute value of 1 over B. And what was B? 2. Okay, so just like before, we keep, change, flip, right? So I keep the negative 2. I change from division to multiplication. And the absolute value of 1/2 is truly just 1/2, right? And then I flip. What is 1/2 when I flip it? 2. So what do we end up with for our slope? So now that we know our slope, the only other thing we have to graph is the vertex. And where would our vertex be? Good. And then if we wanted to, instead of having to use our slope, now it's not so bad when it's negative 4, right? The points are a little more spread out. But we can use f of 2 and f of negative 2 to find some extra points for us to plot and then just mirror them. So for f of 2, we'd have negative 2 times the absolute value of 2 times 2 plus 3 minus 1. So we work inside the absolute value first. 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 plus 3, 7. And what's the absolute value of 7? 7. So this is going to be negative 2 times 7 minus 1. Well, negative 2 times 7 would be negative 14. Minus 1 would be, right. So this gives us the coordinate point 2, negative 15. All right. And then we've got f of negative 2. So negative 2 times the absolute value of 2 times negative 2 plus 3 minus 1. And what's 2 times negative 2? Negative 4. And what's negative 4 plus 3? Negative 1. But it is inside the absolute value, right? Absolute value makes it positive 1. So I'm going to have negative 2 times positive 1 minus 1. And what would that be? Good. So we also have the point negative 2, negative 3 on our graph. All right, and then just like last time, we always plot what first? The vertex. Okay, so my vertex is going to be at negative 1.5, negative 1. So right in here. Okay, and then we said we would have points at positive 2, negative 15. So all the way down here. And then we also have a point at negative 2, negative 3. All right, and where is our axis of symmetry this time? Negative 1.5, right? So right through that vertex. All right, and our points should always mirror each other, right? Looks like this point is just half away from the line. So there should be 1.5 away from the line on the other side as well. Looks like down here, this one is 1, 2, 3.5 away from the line. So I should be 1, 2, 3.5 away on this side as well. And then I can just connect my points. And if you wanted to check, you could always go in with your slope, which we said was negative 4. So it did flip it. And we are going down 4 and over 1 to plot all of our points. All right. So this was from our 2, negative 15, and this one was from our negative 2, negative 3 over here. All right. I am going to